Hi guys, I really hope that you can hear me because there's a little bit of wind and also some machinery in the distance, so hopefully you'll be able to hear me. If not, then I'll have to edit the video and add in subtitles or something. Hang on. I'm a little bit new to this, obviously. Come on, hang on. But what I'm going to do today is sort of give you a little bit of a lesson. Good girl, well done, good girl. In not only long reining but also specifically how I taught Ruby not to spin and bolt, because before, and on, good girl, she used to have a really bad habit of spinning and bolting straight at me, and I actually got run over and quite badly injured a couple of times. Well, bruised anyway, luckily no broken bone. Hand on. And obviously this is a really dangerous habit for any horse, but especially a driving horse. You don't want that. And it was also one of the reasons, hand on, good girl, that a lot of people told me that she would never be a driving pony. Good girl, hand on. So the way that I combated it, and stand, good girl, was obviously she's not going to do it now because she hasn't done it for a very long time. But what I used to do, hopefully you can see this, but these are the reins obviously. Stand, don't go for the grass. Stand, good girl. Was that I would do this, sort of like a half halt. Stand, good girl, like a half halt. And that would kind of prevent her, but you have to kind of do it, stand, while the reins are down, so that the reins can't go over their back like this. Hand on, good girl, well done. If you do that, you can pretty much prevent them from turning. And if they do manage to spin and turn, obviously I appreciate that me dealing with a 10-hand pony is a lot different to trying to deal with a spinning and bolting 16-hand horse, for example, you know, like it is difficult, especially if they're bigger. Good girl, and on, good girl. She's not used to me talking. Well, talking to her, not talking to the camera. And on, no grass, good girl. So what we, if you do that, you're preventing them from being able to spin and bolt. The only thing that you do have to watch is the first time you do that, because they can't really go anywhere apart from forwards or backwards, they may end up reversing. If so, keep them reversing. Don't let them turn. Hand on, good girl. Reversing is very, very difficult for a horse, especially, hand on, good girl, if they're in long reins. It's quite difficult for them to reverse, and a good lesson for them is to learn that they can't spin and bolt, but mum's going to make them walk backwards. And this really, really worked, because after a while they think, you know, screw this, and on, not going on the grass, and on, left, right even, see, she puts up with me. Yeah, I'm a bit useless. Right, and on, good girl. What was I saying? Oh yeah, if you keep them reversing, you can pretty much teach them that if they try to spin and bolt, it's going to be a lot harder work for them. And on, not on the grass, and on. And this does help, but obviously you have to be aware that obviously if the horse is panicked about something and they don't want to go forward and their instinct is to spin and bolt, if you're preventing them from doing that, they might freak out and they can rear, buck, left, left, left. She's playing me up now. Never does this usually. Yeah, but if you can teach them that it's going to be a lot harder work, even if they stop and they stand, get them to stand like that rather than spin and bolt. Hand on, good girl. I'll continue in a minute because I'm not really comfortable talking in front of people. Right, girl. Anyway, as I was saying, I don't like talking in front of passers-by. They probably think I'm a bit mad talking to myself. But anyway, and stand. Good girl. If you can get them to stand, even if they're not reversing or playing up, as long as they're not spinning and bolting, if you can get them to stand still and look at whatever it is they're afraid of, that's still a win, you know. Obviously every horse is really different, but that was her worst habit, and obviously if we'd have not tackled that on the ground before we began driving, that would have been, yes, I know you're impatient, I know, then that would have been a really big no-no. That could have caused so many accidents, but luckily she hasn't done it at all in about before we started driving, stand, we tackled that, so that must have been 5 or more years ago now, and she hasn't done it since. Stand. She's usually really good at standing, it's just because I'm talking. Yeah, good girl. Stand. Well done. And on. And on. Good girl. And that's another thing that you need to try and tackle. Left. Good girl. If you can tackle teaching them to stand still and doing it really gradually, because obviously, especially when they're young or they're anxious or they're impatient, they're not going to be able to have the attention span, and it will end up causing more of a fight, and you don't want them to have a fight with you, because A, you're probably not going to win, and B, you want them to enjoy it. You want them to be happy and comfortable and relaxed and having fun, right? Good girl. And also you don't want that, you know, you want to enjoy yourself, and you can't enjoy yourself if you're constantly trying to have a battle with your horse. So if you can teach them to stand still and do it in gradual increments, so for example, get them to stand still for 3 or 4 seconds. When they're standing nicely, ask them to walk on. Brilliant. Do that a few times, and then slowly up it to, let's say, 10 to 15 seconds. Once they've mastered that, up it to 30 seconds, and so on. And in the end, I think the longest I've ever made her stand while being driven, or long reined anyway, is, good girl, hand on, good girl, I think it was 11 or 12 minutes, because I timed it. That was a couple of years ago now, just to see if she would, and she did. She fidgeted a little bit towards the end, but I got her standing nicely again with her ears pricked, and then I asked her to walk on. Everything you tell them to do needs to come from you, not them. It's very easy to say, oh okay, if you want to walk, carry on walking. You know, you can't do that, especially if you're aiming to have a carriage on the back of you. You can't do that. You need them to be responsive, listening to you. You need to be able to trust them, and they need to be able to trust you as well, to be fair. But it's only by repetition and not getting too frustrated that you can solve this. And like, if you're having a bad day, don't even attempt to teach them anything new. You know, we've all had bad days, we've all lost our temper. Left, left, good girl, left, whoops, drop my reins, left, well done, good girl. And that's another thing, that's my nerve damage playing up, right? Yeah, not the grass, right? Good girl, well done. Can have some grass later. That's another thing, my nerve damage, welcome, good girl, makes me drop the reins occasionally. And sometimes if a horse doesn't have an even or consistent contact, they can freak out, but I'll see if it'll work. Stand. Hopefully you can see that. Hand on. Good girl. Well done. Walk on. Obviously she did move forward initially, but when I dropped the reins she didn't react. She just waited. She can do it while we're actually moving as well, but walk on. I'll probably save that for another video, because we haven't actually long reined in a little while, and I can hear some machinery around somewhere. I don't know if you can hear it on the camera, and I don't really want to risk it because there is a road not far from here. But when our Good girl. When our field and the gated track that we sometimes use is not so muddy and slippery and underwater, then I will do a better demonstration of that. But ultimately, as I was saying, sorry if I'm rambling by the way, trying to concentrate on two things at once isn't my strong point. You really need to be decisive, you need to be consistent, and you need to not lose your temper, because when you start losing your temper, that's when things are going to go wrong, and the horse is going to lose trust in you, or it's going to get anxious, and you're not going to have a very good time either. And safety, as always, is the priority. I'll wait until this guy's gone. Yeah, that's the person. Oh, he's going that way. That's okay then. Bit camera shy, aren't we, Rubes? Walk on. She's being really slow today because, walk on, because she's really not feeling it today, I don't think. She got a little bit excited to start with because she thought I was going to get the cart out, and then the cart didn't come out, and she was like, oh well, screw you then, mum. I want to pull something. I don't want to walk and be long-reined, so I'm going to be super slow. But that's okay. She's not being silly. Although she might get a little bit silly in a minute because there's going to be a little bit of grass down the track. I don't know, you might be able to see, I have got side reins on her. They're not being used as proper side reins, they're being used essentially, walk on, as daisy reins. They are on the loosest length, and I find that they help greedy little ponies, walk on, good girl, not snatch for grass too much. I do use a daisy rein sometimes, but you're snorting, silly girl. But on this cavesson that I'm long reining her in at the moment, she hasn't got a bit in her mouth. Yeah, walk on, walk on. That's a cone that you walk past every single day, so don't be silly. Yeah, left, good girl, well done. As I was saying, walk on. The cavesson, if it has a daisy rein attached to it, the top part on the pole seems to like scrunch up a little bit, so it's not ideal. It works on a bridle, but not on this cavesson. Walk on. Don't you eat your grass. Good girl. Hey, this is the worst part of having a greedy pony, but she doesn't usually do this, to be fair. It's because we haven't done it in a while, isn't it? Walk on. Hey. Actually, making those noises reminds me as well. Good girl. Left. Good girl. Hand on. Vocal commands is another one. To get her to walk. Go on. I say, what gone? What gone? Which has a really nice uplifting tone, and I do the because she knows that she's not supposed to be having a munch. Walk on. And to get her to trot, left, no, left, and again, left and right. I do a deeper voice if I want to go right, left, good girl, and a lower voice. What am I talking about? I do a lower voice. What's that? Is it the sunlight reflecting off the water? Walk on. Walk on. I do a lower voice if I want to go right, and a higher voice if I want to go left, so that she knows very clearly what I'm telling her. And in a minute I'll show you how we do the trot. Not going to play ball today, are you? Really? She's not going to play ball today. She's usually so responsive, and just because I'm filming. Hey, 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 left, 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 and right, and on. And if I wanted to go straight, I ask her to go on. The problem at the moment is that this is a little bit muddy, and she's a bit of a diva, and she doesn't like the mud. She's really not playing ball today. Sorry guys, making me look 10 times more incompetent than I actually am. Great. I knew she'd be like this. If I didn't have this camera on, left, good girl, hand on, good girl. If I didn't have this camera on, she'd be so responsive. No, you're not going there. Welcome. Left, good girl. Come on. If I didn't have this camera on, she would be so responsive and perfect. But just because I'm filming and I'm not really paying as much attention to her as she wants me to, she's going to be a cow. How typical. Come on, you will trot. Hey, as you can see, really not bothered by the whip. That's another thing that you need to kind of get them used to. You don't want them to be afraid of it, and if the whip touches them unexpectedly or goes over the top of them when you're in the cart, you don't want them to fear it. And don't even think about spooking, because you walk past this nearly every day, so there's no reason for it. There you go. And stand. That's another thing you need to be able to do. Stand still and back up, back up. Don't eat the grass. Back up. Hey, back up, back up, back up, and stand and walk on and walk on. Good girl. And good girl. And walk. As I said, she's 10 times more responsive when I'm not filming. Yeah, I know your game, miss. Good girl. And stand and walk on. See, you need them to be nice, responsive and listening to you for safety reasons. And left, 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 and left, and good girl, good girl, and walk, good girl. I also find that if you add the word and walk on into a transition, the horse is like, okay, she's going to give me 8. She's going to give me some new instructions, and it helps them to listen when they've not got their minds on their belly. As I said, if I wasn't filming, she'd be perfect. But yeah, I'll try and do a bit better of a video when there isn't so much grass around and when we've had a little bit more practice again, because we haven't really been doing much recently. Okay. So yeah, hopefully this has at least been a little bit of a help to you, and hopefully my next video won't be quite so chaotic. Thank you for watching, and stand. Good girl. I just thought I'd take her through the water again. We drove through it the other day when it was a little bit deeper than this, but might as well make use of the flooded track while we can. Hey Roots, walk on. Good girl. Well done. She used to be absolutely terrified of water, not even, well, she still tries to avoid puddles to be fair, but she will go through them if I make her. But the fact that she'll go through this without freaking out is a really big achievement. So I'm really, really proud of her. Walk on. Yes, I know there's grass. Walk on. Left. And right. 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 Hey. Greedy. Right. Walk on. Left, 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 left. Don't start. Walk on. Good girl. Walk on. Good girl. Walk on. She wanted to go to the grass there, but that's about as much of a resistance as she shows me these days. So, and she hasn't done that in the cart. So, very, very proud of her. Good girl. And stand. Let's see what you think of it then, shall we?